Let me ask you a serious question. Do you think faith is passive? Do you think Islam is just about rituals, rules, and checking boxes? Because I used to think that way too. I thought being a good Muslim was just about doing enough to stay out of hell. Until life hit me in the face. Until tests came that prayer alone couldn't fix. Until I realized Islam didn't just make me a worshiper, it made me a warrior. You see, Islam isn't a system where you sit back and wait. It's a system that trains you. Every day, 5 times a day, Islam says, get up, move, lead yourself, stand with purpose. That's not just prayer. That's discipline. That's mental training. Salah isn't just communication with God, it's alignment with your mission. I learned about jihad, not just the struggle on the battlefield, but the battlefield inside me. The anger, the ego, the laziness, the insecurity. Islam didn't just tell me to pray it away, it taught me to fight it. It said control your soul before you try to control the world. That's the real war. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was not just a man of worship, he was a man of action. He led armies, he negotiated treaties, he faced insults and violence with patience and strategy. He knew how to fight without losing his heart. That's not weakness, that's mastery. And here's the truth no one told me when I was younger. Worship is only half the path. The other half, character, grit, growth, responsibility. Islam gave me strength to tell the truth when it scared me, to apologize when my ego didn't want to get up for Fajr when my bed begged me to stay. Islam made me a worshiper, yes, but more than that, it made me a warrior, not the kind that harms, the kind that heals, that protects, that shows up, that serves, because in Islam strength isn't for ego, it's for others, your parents, your spouse, your neighbors, even your enemies. You fight not for power but for peace. So if you're sitting here thinking Islam is just about avoiding haram and repeating du'as, you're missing the point. This deen is not just for the prayer mat, it's for the battlefield of life. And the moment you realize that, you stop just surviving and you start leading. Most people assume that religion, especially Islam, is about passivity, quiet obedience, praying, fasting, and waiting for divine reward. We're taught the motions, the rituals, and the rules, but rarely are we taught what Islam demands from you as a human being. And here's what I discovered that changed everything for me. Islam is not a sit-down religion. It is a stand-up religion. It doesn't call you to sit quietly and watch the world go by. It commands you to engage with it. Let me be clear, Islam is not just about believing in God. It's about becoming someone useful in God's creation. You can't just pray 5 times a day and ignore your responsibilities. You can't fast all Ramadan and mistreat your family. You can't memorize the Qur'an and ignore the hungry, the broken, and the oppressed. Islam is not passive. It's a call to action. Every surah, every ayah, every pillar is designed to build in you the qualities of someone who is ready to move. Take the very first revelation. Read. That wasn't just a command to recite words, it was a command to engage, to learn, to wake up. It wasn't sit still and be holy. It was stand up and grow. Educate yourself. Expand your mind. Take initiative. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was not sent into isolation. He was sent into a society to confront injustice, heal division, build trust, and empower people through action. Look at the structure of our daily life as Muslims. Islam doesn't tell you to worship when it's convenient. It interrupts your day 5 times with salah. It says stop everything, clean yourself, get focused, reconnect. That's not passive, that's intense accountability. It trains you like an athlete, trains with scheduled workouts. It builds discipline, it reinforces value. You stand, you bow, you prostrate, physically and mentally surrendering your ego 5 times a day. That's not submission out of fear, that's training to handle life. And think about this, fasting in Ramadan, that's not just hunger and thirst, that's a mental toughness drill. Islam is teaching you you don't need that comfort, you are in control of your desires, not the other way around. That kind of strength transfers directly into how you handle temptation, stress, conflict, and struggle. It teaches you to say no when the world wants you to say yes. That's not passivity, that's resistance training. When people think Muslim, they often picture someone in a mosque head down in prayer. But real Islam doesn't stop at the prayer mat. It starts there. It starts when you finish praying and go out into the world. It's in how you speak, how you spend, how you lead. The Prophet, PBO, was described as a walking Qur'an. He lived the message. And that message was not about hiding from life. It was about engaging with it boldly, ethically, and purposefully. So no, Islam isn't about sitting still and being quiet. It's about becoming someone the world feels, someone who can carry pressure, someone who can protect others, someone who shows up. It teaches you how to live with intention, not just belief. And that means being brave enough to act even when you're scared. It means being strong enough to hold your tongue when you're angry. It means being grounded enough to lead when others follow the noise. Islam doesn't want robots. It wants leaders. It wants people who will rise up with character and courage. People who won't just believe in change, but create it. That's what I mean when I say Islam is not passive. It's a call to action. And the second you start living it that way, everything changes. You don't just feel spiritual, you feel unstoppable. We live in a world that praises outer strength, fitness, muscles, hustle, competition. But the truth is the most powerful battles you'll ever fight won't be visible to anyone. They won't happen in gyms or boardrooms. They'll happen inside your own mind. And that's exactly where Islam starts, with the inner self. Islam doesn't train you to defeat others. It trains you to defeat yourself, your ego, your excuses, your impulse. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that the greatest jihad is the jihad of the nafs, the internal struggle against your lower self. Think about that. The greatest war isn't out there. It's in here. It's the battle to stay honest when lying is easy. It's the fight to stay pure in a world that glorifies corruption. It's the strength to stay patient when anger is boiling inside you. That's real power. That's warrior training. You know what makes a warrior? Self-mastery, restraint, clarity, discipline. And Islam drills these into you through every part of its system. Waking up for Fajr is not just about ticking a box. It's about building the strength to rise when your body says, stay down. Fasting in Ramadan is not about starving. It's about mastering your desire, controlling your tongue when you're angry. That's not weakness. That's discipline under fire. That's what warriors do. They don't react. They respond with control. We're not taught this enough. Too many people grow up thinking Islam is just a list of harams and halal, what you're allowed and not allowed to do. But if you look closer, every act of worship in Islam is a training rep for your character. Salah trains your focus and humility. Sabr teaches you how to endure without break. Zakat pushes you to let go of attachment and care for others even when it's inconvenient. Every one of these is internal strength training. And let's talk about the ego, because if there's one enemy that ruins lives, relationships, and faith, it's that. The voice that says I'm better. The attitude that says I don't need help. The pride that refuses to admit mistakes. Islam comes at that ego like a warrior. It tells you humble yourself, lower your wing, don't walk on the earth arrogant. It's not about pretending to be small, it's about knowing your real place in the bigger picture. Even when you're right, Islam teaches you to hold back sometimes for the sake of peace. That's not weakness. That's next level strength. It takes real courage to forgive when you can get revenge. It takes emotional muscle to say I was wrong when your pride wants to scream otherwise. That kind of control is rare, but Islam doesn't just recommend it, it demands it. You know why? Because Islam isn't interested in who you appear to be. It's interested in who you are when no one is watching. And let's be real, that's what defines a warrior. Not how loud they shout, but how well they discipline their soul. Not how many followers they have, but how many battles they've won in silence. This deen isn't here to make you a fan of faith. It's here to make you a fighter for your future, to confront the laziness, the distractions, the addictions, the anger, all of it, and say, I'm in control now, not my desires, not my moods. And when you start to win those battles, something incredible happens. You don't just feel stronger, you become someone unshakable, someone reliable, someone the world can count on. That's not just spiritual success, that's real-life power. Islam doesn't just want you to be pious, it wants you to be powerful, not by defeating others, but by mastering the most important battlefield yourself. Most people see prayer in Islam, salah, as a ritual, a religious obligation, something you just do because you're told to, and for a long time I saw it that way too. Get up, make wudu, pray, repeat, but then something shifted. I stopped treating prayer like a habit, and started looking at what it was doing to me and what it was training in me. You see, prayer is not just about checking in with God. It's not a box to tick or a chore to get out of the way. It's training, mental, emotional, and spiritual training. It's 5 scheduled opportunities every single day where Islam says, stop whatever you're doing, whether you're winning, losing, busy, tired, anxious, distracted, and reset. Get back to your center, reconnect with your purpose, reclaim control of your time, your mind, and your soul. No other system of development on earth does this with such consistency and structure. People talk about mindfulness, and meditation, and journaling routines, but Islam already built that rhythm into your day. 5 times, spaced out perfectly, to interrupt your ego, your stress, your temptations, and your distractions. You're being coached to refocus daily, and it's not just mental, it's physical too. Think about it. You stand, you bow, you prostrate. Your body follows a pattern of surrender. This isn't random. Your body is aligning with your soul. You're learning posture. You're learning humility. You're teaching yourself to let go of control, to submit, to be present. That's not religious performance. That's discipline through movement. Even the timing of prayer is strategic. Fajr pulls you out of bed when comfort wants to keep you under the blanket. That moment right there is training. It's saying, you don't follow comfort. You lead with purpose. Door and us break up your productivity rush and tell you pause, reset. You're not just a machine. Maghrib reminds you, right as the day closes, to come back to gratitude. And Isha, it trains you to end your day with peace, not chaos. This rhythm changes how you show up in life. You become calmer under pressure, more focused when things get noisy, more intentional with how you use your time, and let's not ignore what it does to your emotional intelligence. Because when you're praying 5 times a day, you can't just hold on to anger and resentment. You're constantly being reminded to purify, to let go, to ask for forgiveness, and to forgive. And that's why I say prayer is training. You're not just repeating words, you're recentering your identity. Every time you recite, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, you alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. You're reminding yourself who you serve, where your strength comes from, and what your priorities. That grounds you in a world that's always trying to pull you in 10 different directions. Let me put it this way. Salah is your reset button, your mental gym, your leadership training program. It builds the habits that high performers pay thousands of dollars to learn: focus, time blocking, emotional regulation, goal setting, resilience. But here's the difference. In Islam, it's not optional, it's essential, because your soul needs structure, your mind needs checkpoint, your heart needs recalibration. When you treat Salah like this, not just a ritual, but a system of discipline, you stop dragging your feet to it, you start running toward it. You stop asking, do I have to pray? And start realizing, I get to train 5 times a day to become the strongest version of myself. That's what Salah really is. Not just a worship act, but a leadership habit, a warrior ritual, and a daily reminder that you were made for more than just surviving. You were made to master yourself. A lot of people have this narrow idea of who the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was. They picture him sitting in a quiet corner praying all day, completely disconnected from the real world. But that image is not just incomplete, it's misleading, because the truth is, the Prophet wasn't just a spiritual leader, he was a strategic, dynamic, multi-dimensional human. And if we only see him as a man who worshipped, we're missing the full power of his example. The Prophet, P.B.O.E.O., wasn't sent to live on a mountain, he was sent into the heart of a brutal, corrupt, tribal society, and he transformed it. That didn't happen through silence, it happened through action, through leadership, through courage. He wasn't just praying behind closed doors, he was leading people in battles, resolving tribal conflicts, signing treaties, building economies, mentoring young people, empowering women, and protecting the rights of the oppressed. That's not the work of someone passive, that's the legacy of someone built for impact. He was a strategist. Look at the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. That was not just a religious event, it was political diplomacy at its finest. Most of the companions thought the terms were unfair, but the Prophet saw the long game. He thought strategically. He understood when to hold back and when to move forward. That's leadership. That's vision. That's what warriors do. They don't just fight for the sake of fighting. They think. They calculate. They build peace when others only know how to build pride. He was also a commander. In the battlefield, he didn't just sit back and give orders. He fought alongside his companions, shoulder to shoulder. And yet even there he never lost his compassion. He gave clear ethics for warfare. Don't harm women, children, or the elderly. Don't destroy nature. Don't kill animals without purpose. These were not the ethics of a conqueror, these were the values of a man who led with conscience, a man who understood that power without mercy is destruction. But here's what's incredible, his strength didn't make him hard, it made him softer in the right ways. He was the first to forgive. He didn't retaliate when he had the chance. Think about the conquest of Makkah. He could have sought revenge after years of torture and persecution. But instead, what did he say? No blame upon you today. That's not weakness. That's elite-level emotional control. That's what a real warrior looks like. Not someone who wins with force, but someone who wins with grace. And the Prophet wasn't just dealing with external challenge, he was mentoring his followers through internal ones too, teaching them how to manage anger, how to stay patient in hardship, how to stay focused on the hereafter while building a better world here and now. That balance between spiritual depth and worldly action is exactly what makes him the ultimate model. He didn't separate faith from real life. He integrated it. That's the part we need to reclaim. Being a worshipper is only part of the path. The Prophet showed us that being a true follower of Islam means stepping up, not stepping away. It means leading your home, your business, your community, not by dominating, but by serving, not with ego, but with principle. Islam isn't about running from the world, it's about elevating it. And the Prophet showed us exactly how to do that, by being strong without being harsh, by being firm without being cruel, and by being humble while carrying immense responsibility. So if you want to follow the Prophet, don't just imitate his prayers, imitate his leadership, his discipline, his patience under pressure, his compassion in power, because he wasn't just a worshipper, he was a warrior of integrity, a man who led with his heart, his mind and his mission, every single day. One of the most transformational things Islam teaches is this: your value is not in what you own, it's in what you give. That flips the entire modern mindset on its head, because we're taught from early on that success is about accumulation, more stuff, more money, more status. But Islam cuts through that illusion and says no, the real measure of your strength is in how much you serve others. That's a radical shift in thinking, and it changes everything about how you live. Let's start with zakat. On the surface it looks like a financial obligation. Give 2.5% of your wealth to the poor, simple. But when you dig deeper, zakat isn't just about money, it's a mindset. It teaches you that your wealth is not truly yours. You're a steward, a caretaker, and your purpose is to circulate benefit, not hoard it. That alone builds humility. It builds responsibility, and it teaches you that strength doesn't come from having more, it comes from uplifting those who have less. But Islam goes beyond just the obligation of zakat. It encourages constant giving. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that even a smile is charity, giving good advice is charity, removing something harmful from the road is charity. That's powerful, because it means you're never too poor, too broken, or too tired to serve. You can always give something: your time, your energy, your presence, your support. And when you give, you're not just helping others, you're fortifying yourself. There's strength in service, and not the kind of service where you expect praise. Islam teaches sincere service, where you give even when no one's watching, where you help without needing to post about it, where you support someone who can't give you anything in return. That's character, that's integrity, and that's what Islam develops in you, an unshakable sense of duty, not for recognition, but for reward with Allah. Let's talk about leadership. In Islam, leadership is not about being the loudest voice in the room, it's not about controlling people, it's about serving people. The Prophet, PBO, said, the leader of a people is their servant. That flips ego completely upside down, because real leadership isn't about being above others, it's about lifting others up. And that's what makes you powerful, not dominance, but dedication. Think about how the Prophet treated his companions. He remembered their names, he listened to them, he encouraged them, he corrected them with kindness. He walked with orphans, he stood up when people entered the room. This wasn't weakness. This was intentional service-based leadership. He led with love, with wisdom, and with example, and that's exactly the model Islam calls every believer to follow, even in conflict. Islam teaches serve. When you're in an argument, what's harder, to prove your point or to maintain dignity? Islam teaches you to serve the peace, even if your ego wants to win. That's strength. When someone wrongs you, Islam teaches forgiveness, not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. That's power through principle. That's service in action. And here's what happens when you live this way. You become someone people trust. Someone people turn to. Someone who walks into a room and brings calm instead of chaos. That's real influence. Not because you demanded respect, but because you earned it by how you treat others. So no, Islam doesn't just tell you to pray and fast and sit quietly. It trains you to be a servant leader, to be someone who gives when it's hard, who shows up when others back out, and who uses their strength to support, not to suppress. That's not soft. That's elite character. That's the warrior Islam builds. Not someone who conquers others, but someone who uplifts them every single day. When people talk about success, they usually focus on what they can see: money, achievements, followers, degrees, cars. But Islam teaches something deeper, something far more powerful. It teaches that real success, true strength, starts with the part of you no one can see: your heart, because that's where everything begins. Your thoughts, your intentions, your actions, your decisions. If your heart is right, your life will follow. But if your heart is full of confusion, ego, jealousy, or hate, no amount of hustle can fix that. This is where Islam becomes more than just a religion. It becomes a system for internal transformation. It doesn't just tell you what to do, it shapes why you do it. Islam constantly brings your attention back to your inner world, your intentions, your sincerity, your emotional state. That's why, before any act of worship, your niyyah, your intention matters. You're being trained to pause and ask yourself, why am I doing this? That question, repeated daily, develops emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and personal integrity. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "There's a piece of flesh in the body. If it's sound, the whole body is sound. If it's corrupted, the whole body is corrupted. That piece is the heart." That's not just poetic, it's psychological. Your heart determines your behavior, and Islam trains you to protect it, clean it, strengthen it. That's why you're taught to forgive, to purify your soul, to guard your gaze, to speak good, or remain silent, not because these things look good on the outside, but because they heal you on the inside. Let's talk about healing, because we all carry pain, trauma, regret, self-doubt, and in today's world, it's easy to numb those feelings with distractions, scrolling, binging, performing for approval. But Islam doesn't teach you to run from your pain, it teaches you to face it, to sit with it, to talk to Allah about it. Every dua you make is therapy, every sajda is a moment of grounding, every verse of the Qur'an is a medicine. Islam doesn't just hand you rules, it hands you tools to clean the emotional junk that weighs you down, and it's not a one-time fix, it's a daily process. Just like a warrior trains their body every day, a Muslim trains their heart every day, through dhikr, through dua, through prayer, through reflection. It's this consistent, internal work that strengthens you, not to become invincible but to become resilient. So when life hits you, and it will, you don't shatter, you respond with clarity, with patience, with hope. This is what makes a person unshakable, not that they don't feel fear or pain, but that they know how to anchor themselves. And that anchor is tawakkul, trust in Allah, not blind optimism, but active surrender, the mindset that says, I'll give my all but the outcome is in His hands. That takes maturity, that takes real strength. It frees you from anxiety over things you can't control, and it focuses your energy on what you can, or effort, your character, your attitude. And as your inner world strengthens, your outer life begins to change. You speak with more wisdom, you react with more calm, you walk with more purpose. People feel that. They might not be able to explain it, but they'll say there's something different about that. Something is your heart being led by truth, not by trend. And when your heart is right, your path becomes clear even when it's hard. So no, Islam doesn't just build worship, it builds warriors of the heart, people who are emotionally strong, spiritually grounded, and mentally clear, people who don't just survive life, but lead themselves through it with faith, courage, and conviction. And that kind of power, that's not loud, it's quietly unstoppable. So here's the truth. Islam didn't just teach me how to worship, it taught me how to live. It didn't just put prayer on my schedule, it put purpose in my actions. It didn't just tell me to submit, it trained me to stand up with strength, clarity, and conviction. Because this religion, it builds warriors, not with swords or slogans, but with self-discipline, emotional control, deep intention, and unwavering faith. It builds people who can wake up before the world does and pray when it's still dark. People who choose patience when their ego screams for revenge. People who serve when they're exhausted, forgive when it's hardest, and keep going when everything inside them says to quit. Islam showed me that worship is not weakness, it's training. Salah builds resilience. Fasting builds self-control. Zakat builds empathy. Every command is designed to build you, not just spiritually but mentally, emotionally, and socially. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he wasn't just a man of prayer, he was a visionary, a strategist, a servant, a reformer, a leader, a warrior of heart and action. And if we truly follow him, we're not just following his rituals, we're stepping into his mindset, his mission, his character. So if you've ever felt like your faith was just about rules, or rituals, or staying quiet, think again. Islam didn't come to make you small, it came to make you strong. It came to elevate you, to sharpen you, to shape you into someone who doesn't just survive life, but leads in it. I'm not just a worshiper because of Islam, I'm a warrior because of Islam, and so are you. Now go live like it.